If you're divorcing a narcissist, you may have to face depositions. That's a very scary thing for you when you've been in this toxic relationship. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm Victoria McCooey. I'm a high conflict divorce coach, a divorce mediator, and the creator of the Reclaim Your Power system. I help people every day who are right where you are, stuck in a toxic marriage to a narcissistic spouse, or already engaged in a contentious divorce from one. Depositions are not fun for anyone. It's a very uncomfortable place to be. You're in a law office usually. You've got a court reporter typing everything you say. You've got your adversary in the room. You're being grilled by an attorney. You have to be very, very mindful of every word out of your mouth. Yes, it's very, very uncomfortable. But add the extra layer of having been in this narcissistic relationship, in this abusive marriage for years, decades, however long it's been. Now you're already so triggered by all of the things you're talking about. So it's a whole other layer of discomfort. So let's just talk about how this narcissistic abuse has compromised you, how the symptoms manifest that are going to show up in this deposition if you're not careful. The first one is you've acquired a fight, flight, or freeze response. So that is your body's defense mechanism. When you're in this abusive situation, you either fight back or you flee, get away from it, or you freeze and you're not able to say anything. You're paralyzed. You just stop everything. So as you can imagine, this doesn't work well in a deposition, right? If you respond in a way that seems overly aggressive or overly defensive, it's going to look out of proportion to what has just happened. And that's this symptom manifesting. So you might become very aggressive. Or the flight part, you can't, right? You can't flee. You can't leave the room. You can't abandon ship, right? You're stuck there. So that doesn't work for you. And the freeze part, this is what usually happens a lot of times when I see clients who are not in a place where they should be going into a deposition emotionally. They freeze. They can't answer the question. They have analysis paralysis. They're thinking so hard about, well, if I say this, it'll seem like this, and if I say that, and they're just absolutely paralyzed with fear of saying the wrong thing. Another symptom of narcissistic abuse is hypervigilance. This is more of that overanalyzing thing. You have so much self-doubt. You have analysis paralysis. You're overthinking everything. So in a deposition, that actually might be good to be thinking of what the reasons are for the question, but you might go too far. You're going to overthink everything that's put in front of you, and that can make you look almost guilty of something that you're not guilty of. So this is a bad way that this manifests in a deposition. The third symptom I want to talk about is brain fog. When you have been in this kind of dynamic for all this time, you're so diminished. You've been on the receiving end of this toxic abuse for so long that it causes brain fog. It's due to the fact that you have the cognitive dissonance, which is when you're told one thing is true, but you think another thing is true, and you're trying to come to grips with how can both of these things be true at the same time. It's almost like a short circuit in your brain. So this causes you not to be able to think clearly, not to be able to remember very well. You know what it's like when you have a head cold and you really can't think very well. That's what it feels like. And so you might be asked a question that no one in the room can understand, how you can say you don't remember, but you really don't remember. So now you see how these symptoms can affect you and your performance during a deposition. You're asked questions you're not going to be able to answer either at all. Maybe you can't answer clearly or effectively. Maybe you honestly don't remember when nobody else understands how you could possibly not remember. You may be emotionally dysregulated. Maybe you cry. Okay, well, that's not unusual for someone to cry over an emotional situation, but it might not seem warranted, right? It might not seem like a normal time for someone to cry in the eyes of the other people in the room, well, except maybe the narcissist understands why, but it will seem out of proportion to what's happening because you're diminished. Oh, and here's the worst, people pleasing. You know, this is one of the things that happens. Well, first of all, narcissists are attracted to people who are naturally people pleasers. They want to be catered to, right? They want someone to always do what they need done or what they think, have things go the way they want them to go. So people pleasers are a perfect match for a narcissist. But in this scenario, I see people trying to people please because that's what's worked for them in all the years of this relationship. You know, that's what the narcissist rewards is the people pleasing. So they tend to do that more. You're people pleasing your adversary. This is the dynamic here. The opposing counsel is asking you questions, and I've seen people pleasing people try so hard to give them what they want, like to help them get information from them that may not even be true, to not take care of themselves, to take care of their adversary more than they take care of themselves. Another symptom is the guilt and self-blame. This is a typical response from someone who's been under a lot of narcissistic abuse for an extended amount of time. They are always told that it's their fault. They're always to blame. They feel guilty for everything. They take the blame for almost everything, whether it's their fault or not. And so then if this shows up in a deposition, this is very counterproductive for you. If you're taking the blame, if you're admitting fault for something that is not really your fault, or letting someone convince you that something that the other person did was because of something you did, right? And you take the blame, this is not helping you in a deposition. And of course, the biggest one of all, fear of retaliation. You have been groomed to be afraid of the narcissist's reaction to what you do, right? That's the walking on eggshells. You're afraid of what they're going to do once you leave this deposition, when you've said the truth about them, when you've said things that hurt them in this process. Even though you're in this legal battle, they still are not going to want you to take care of yourself. They want you not to say anything bad about them, to protect them, and you're fearful of the retaliation that might come. So that's pretty daunting, right? So what can you do? How can you prepare for this? Healing takes a long time. It took you a long time to get to this place. It's going to take a long time also to heal completely, if you ever can heal completely, but we can make a lot of progress in a short amount of time so that you can be prepared to go into a situation like this. So this is the triaging that we have to do. We have to hit the things that really are going to make the biggest difference, that have the greatest effect for you to get through the divorce process without hurting yourself. So one thing you can do is obviously prepare to have coaching around how to answer these questions. Practice answering the questions you assume you're going to be asked. It's not hard to figure out what questions you're going to be asked. They've already put it into court papers. They've already put it into interrogatories. You know what is going to be asked of you. There probably won't be any big surprises. So you and your coach or your lawyer can practice answering the questions, how you're going to answer them. Just like anything, it's a rehearsal. The more comfortable you feel saying these things out loud in front of other people, the better performance you're going to give. And then the second thing to remember going into a deposition is to stick to the facts. Certainly don't expound on an answer. Only answer the question that's posed of you. Don't elaborate. Don't give any extra information. Don't try to defend yourself. Leave that to your lawyer for the next part. You're just getting on the record what the truth is for you, even if it's a yes or no answer. If you think it seems incriminating, don't get defensive about explaining why. That's the lawyer's job for later. So just feel confident in answering the questions as succinctly as possible. So if you are facing a divorce that may include a deposition and you would like some help preparing for that, you can book a call with me. That's the first step to working with me. I'll put a link in the description below where you can get right on my calendar. Did you find this information helpful? I hope you did. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I linked a couple of other videos here that I think you might also like, so I hope I see you in the next video.